tell us his side of Williams brother story.
Ernie.
Ernie Williams. Oh, Ernie, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
Ernie Williams story. The other brother, the younger brother of Samuel,
Jim.
and how many other brothers and sisters?
There's 6 other brothers. Frank's the youngest, and Kyle was the oldest, and he's no longer with us, and Clyde and Don and Ray and Jim and I, and we had a sister that died when she was 2. She was between Frank and I, and I don't remember too much about her. She was, I think I was about 4 or 5 when she died. She was a princess, and Mom, she was a young girl. My mom, she always wanted a girl. And then when my youngest brother, they had a daughter, and Mom, she sort of took over her. She lived next door to her, pretty close to him, and she did it on her.
Well, tell us your earliest memories playing with your brothers.
My earliest, I guess, was in the summertime. I can't remember, like in the wintertime. Summer, we were sled riding in the summertime. In the summertime, there was a big field across from the house from us, and my uncle, he always had a garden. There were 7 of us boys, and the 2 uncles lived at the same house, and both the uncles, neither one of them were married. And one uncle, he took care of the garden, and he was sort of the handyman of the town. He did odd jobs, and he milked the cow and did all this sort of stuff. And there was 2 big trees by the road, and that's where we spent our summers underneath those trees playing with little cars. And then we got older, we built cars, and 3rd Street in Moss, had a little hill. You get on that hill and come down the hill or on the road with no traffic. You'd also sled ride on that hill too, and when somebody down above the hill, watching for cars, and you just come down, you might see a car every 5 minutes or so. And we have a woods behind our creek, and the woods behind the house. And in the summertime, that's where we went swimming in the creek, and in the wood. We got older. Sometimes, if the water was deep enough. If it wasn't deep enough, we had to go up Creek Road, where Hunter Mason Road crosses. Okay, you go out 25. I mean, we're underneath the that's where the 25 goes on the other. Creek Road is straight ahead, and then Hunter Mason Road crosses that. There was a really nice pond up there, a nice pool. We'd go up there and swim if it was hot, or if the water in the creek wasn't too hot behind the house. But there's a wood behind us where we spend a lot of time in the woods.
Now this is the house on Tylersville Road, right? So the train tracks are not too far from that.
Well, the train was down like bottom of the hill. You come up the hill halfway, there's a train track, then you get up the other hill, and then we lived up above that. My dad was a section from on the railroad.
It was a section for the train.
Right.
What did you do for that?
Well, he just took care of the railroad. I mean, the rails, rails need to be replaced, whether they replace the rail. And his territory was from Sharonville to Middletown.
Oh.
And on Saturdays, he would walk the track. He didn't have to inspect it and see if it was wrong. And he'd take his kids with him. And that was what was neat. He had a depot and a little station where he kept his car, or his river car. Right. Well, his wasn't pump, but it was. He used to have the old pump type, but he had one with the motor car, and he had a motor on his. But he would not do that with the kids on there. But then we go in there and he grilled cheese sandwiches on the stove, and we'd walk with him. Then we talk about the hill engine. That's what they called the freight train came from Sharonville was of a hill. Well, they had to have an extra engine on the train to get them up 2 mods. Then it would stop, and it would go on. Then the train would go on, and he'd come back. When the train would stop, we'd get down there and it would start rolling a little bit. We'd jump on, and then it'd get going pretty fast, and we'd jump off. Well, the station master, well, he saw us doing that a couple times. He told my dad, and that was. My dad never spanked us. My mom, if we had a spanking, my mom was always on the watch one. Yes, she did. She did this. But my dad, he never spanked. He never spanked us, and I don't know why. But we always, if he said jump, we jumped, and never told us anything. He found out about this, and he said, "Do you want to spank? Or do you want 2 weeks?" And I didn't know how hard he spanked, so I took 2 weeks. I was grounded for 2 weeks.
So what did you do? You're grounded because you
Nothing.
guys didn't have any TVs.
Well, no, we had paper out. But the only thing I'd do the paper out, and that'd be in the house or outside. You can go out any place else, but you always prolong the paper out. You stop and visit and do things like that. But, it was just fun.
Now, the paper out was mainly in Maud up and down.
Well, up Tylersville Road, up past where Lakota Hills.
Right.
we had went up that way. There's a couple of houses, and going down 25, there was a couple of houses down. That was about a half mile down, and all through the streets of Mons, and then up Tylersville Road up to where Myers is now.
It's a big route. I got 7 boys.
Well, we only did it ourselves. When I was younger, my brother, the older brother, he was in charge of the paper route. Okay.
This is Cincinnati Enquirer? Or
This was like the
Town newspaper?
Cincinnati the Time Star. They had 3 papers: Enquirer, Time Star, and Post.
Okay.
When we had the Time Star, and my brother, he was the boss. He hired all the younger kids to run the paper route for him. And I remember my dad. He found a book of his where his kept all track of the times and the money he spent. When he had on there, he docked me 2 cents because I'd forgotten somebody, and I'd probably forgotten because it was too far to walk. I didn't walk that far. So he docked. I paid 2 cents, and the paper was only 3 cents. So I don't know if we paid us probably 2 cents a week, I guess. But he docked me. I was the youngest one. But I was only about 7
Was
or 8.
that a morning route? Or
It was in the
it
was in the afternoon,
Okay. So,
after school.
yeah, you go to school in the morning. What was your normal day? You get up, you
Uh,
do chores.
Not in the mornings, and not during school. Didn't do much. But in the summertime, we had to cut grass, and we had a cow milk. We always milked the cow till I got in high school, and I had milked the cow again. We always played sports, so we didn't have too many chores to do. Playing basketball high school, so we did chores. We had to wash the dishes, and that was pump wash water in the on Sundays. Mom always Monday was work day, Tuesday was iron, and we always had pump wash water. And I always got in a fight on Sunday pump wash water, because one more we had cistern water and well water, and we had a wash house in the right back of the house. Mom had a stove there, and wringer dryer washer ringer.
Was that in the building?
It was in
On her or outside?
No, this was in the building, and then she had an old a coal stove, and she heated water on that, and then that pumped it with the cistern water, and the other time pumped the well water. The cistern water was right next to the building, so you knew who had pumped the well water, carried it, and the well water was, you had to fill 2 tubs full because you rinsed them twice, and when we had to fill the wash machine with cistern water once. So Jim did the cistern water, I did the well water.
Because you were younger.
I was young.
Because you were younger.
That's right. But then we had a coal stove too. She had to bring the coal. And
You were in the cold.
well, Mom for a long time she cooked with the coal and wood, and and finally got an oil stove, and then and Mom got a electric stove and a gas stove.
What year? I know it's for older kids. To the time frame. That must have been 30s, huh?
They were in the 30s, so I guess.
Do you remember Depression stuff?
No, I didn't realize there was a depression because Dad always had a job, and we always had food on the table. We had to hand down clothes. Sometimes clothes get from the oldest down to the 6th one. They were pretty well worn.
Very soft when they got to you.
But it was, I think, honestly, that I lived in the best of times because you had places to play outdoors. You couldn't get in trouble unless you stole stuff. That's when I had the Boy Scouts when I was younger, but it was interesting.
Tell about Boy Scouts. How many do you remember? You guys go camping or what?
You went to Boy Scout camp a couple times. It was like north of Hamilton, between Camden and Eaton. And our Boy Scout leader was also the 8th grade teacher. That's Union. His name was Mr. West. And oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's just I can hear you when you're
Okay.
like this. Go ahead, start
Mr. West was a Boy Scout leader, and he was the type of fellow that liked to get things going, but that was it. Our meetings, we didn't do anything. Our meetings just go, and I think I was only in Boy Scouts a couple of years, and I think I got as a tenderfoot, and that was about it. But I did go to Boy Scout camp. That was pretty interesting.
Were you a good student at Union Elementary?
No, because I think the first grade they didn't give you S's or U's or anything. They give check marks.
Okay.
Blue was good, and a red one was not so good. And I thought I had pretty report card at both blue and check. Mom didn't think it was pretty though.
Well, they put like first graders, second graders together. Tell me.
No. We had each class. You had one first grade class, one second grade class. Each of them had their separate teachers. In fact, the original Mrs. Fee, Ross's first wife, she was my second grade teacher, and she was the only teacher that spanked me. Well, actually, it wasn't spanked. It was about 3 or 4 whacks on your hand.
What did you do?
Nothing.
Yeah, Christine.
No, that's true.
So,
Uh,
we'll get her in here.
we were, I remember the class was being rowdy, okay, and he says, okay, everybody sit down and be quiet. The next person that talks is going to get spanked. Well, I just turned around, I didn't say nothing, I just turned around like that, and she says, okay, Ernie, you're the first. So I walked up there, and got 3 whacks on the hand. But the funny part about it, we didn't have a telephone. And but
How did you?
by the time I got home off the bus, my mom met me at the end of the sidewalk, and every step I took into the house, I got a whack. And I still don't know to this day how she found out that I got spanked. And that hurt more than the... No, it was not.
But there was the mother network.
Mother network, she knew.
Did the kids get off earlier?
No. See, the only thing I could, the bus, I come up Mauds, I come up Cincinnati Road, and come up Mauds, and went up 2nd Street, and back that way, and back down 3rd Street in front of the house, and I got off front of the house. And whether somebody got off that bus down to the corner store and walked up and told Mom on the way up, and that's the only way I figured out I did it.
Now, you talked about the corner store. Did you go down, were you in charge of, running errands for Mom?
Oh, yeah, we went down all the time to get groceries, but we did a lot of grocery shopping in Bethlehem for some reason or other. Mom would go there on Saturdays, and we would feed things in between time. We'd go down to the keyboard store and pick up more items. You always had a charge. You go down and put it on the bill, and Dad would pay once a week or once a month or whatever. Most of the time we didn't chew tobacco because that's what Dad chewed tobacco.
Was there sampling from the boys?
No. He'd know. But I tried it one time, and it wasn't a very good taste. You don't do that very often.
Because they're the baseball players. You guys said you were baseball and basketball.
Oh, that's in the summertime. That's what we did. Play baseball.
What did you play? Did you play on First Street or Second Street? Or did you go to
Well,
the garage?
we had a side lot between our house and the house next door, and I thought at that time it was pretty big, and we played there all the time. And later on, they also had a big time at the end of 3rd Street where Moss had a baseball team for the adults, and you go up there and play on that. It was in what they call the Tri-State. They would travel from Sharonville to Glendale and Mason and all over the house and played teams like that. But I
Want to be a sports player when you were growing up? What did you want to be?
Well, I always wanted to be a baseball player, but I played baseball in high school. By the time we got older, that league ended when the Second World War started. That was the end of the baseball in Mauds. And then the Church of God bought the land also, and they built a church on it, so that took care of the baseball diamond. But we played baseball for the high school. Our baseball diamond was down here right across the creek here from where St. John's is. And Joseph, there used to be a garage, Joseph's garage right down here where I don't know what's in there now, something's in there now. Yeah, but if a baseball came over his yard, it was in the baseball, you didn't get the baseball. So,
Foul zone.
that was a foul zone.
Don't hit in the foul zone or you'll lose your ball. So tell me about high school and the girls and stuff.
Well,
Because if you were a sports player,
I started dating my wife when she was a freshman and I was a sophomore.
Really?
And we went together all that time.
Oh, that is so neat. What was your first meeting or your first date?
Well, she lived 2 doors from us. And when we used to work for Bauman's in the summertime on the farm,
What did you do?
baled hay and then put up hay. And then they'd come pick us up and they'd bring us home about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Is that the farm off Cox Road?
No, it's
You ever
down
talk
here.
about hay on Cox
No, it's down off of Westchester Road now, from Union Central Boulevard, all that. They had 3 farms there. Mrs. Fee's first husband, then his 2 brothers, and one still is on Allen Road there.
That house with the red roof?
Right.
Okay.
That was where the Bowdens, and they had 3 farms right here together. And then we worked for them. I came from the time I was in 7th, 8th grade until I got an old enough
I
guy.
worked in there too, a little bit.
Well, they were the best people to work for. They would pick you up about 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning. You worked till noon, and they stopped at noon, and then they fed, and they'd feed you hamburgers. They fed you steak and potatoes and vegetables and pie, and 1 o'clock they'd go back out, and then it was always on the wagon. Where the bale comes up off the wagon, or off the bale, and you hook and put them in the air. And the rest of them was in the hay hours when they put in the mountain. I was always on the wagon all the time by myself. And Bernice, she would come out about 2:30, 3 o'clock with iced tea and cookies. And they paid the best. And
Hard work, a good day.
it wasn't really hard work. I mean, that was for me, but if you were in the barn, and they come in the wagon, they'd take it and put it in the barn. There would be 3 guys up in the barn, and one of the islands would down, put it on the elevator, and they go up. they were actually on up there about 15 or 20 minutes, and they were done till the other wagon came in. And I got extra pay because I was on the wagon because I handled every bale. They only handled every third or fourth bale. But it was all right. I enjoyed it. It was really good people to work for.
And you met your wife.
Well, she did 3 doors from us, and we'd come home from work, and there's always a ball game in the yard, especially in summertime. Well, she'd come up and play ball, and then she started. My mom would bake beans like afternoon. She'd go up and my mother bake beans, so she'd be at the house. But and
Smart
then,
girl, boy.
but I think our first real date was. We used to have skating parties in the school. Go down there was a Norwood Racing School skating rink.
Okay.
We get on a bus and go
Yeah, I was
down.
gonna say, Norwood, that's kind of far away.
We go school bus. They have they sponsor now. I think that was our first
We
date.
go to Golden Skates.
Yeah. And then Mud used to have a theater, and we would go back there. It cost a dime.
Where was the theater?
Where 2nd Street is.
Yeah.
Okay, you go all the way back 2nd Street, and there's a Shirley Street goes off to the left or goes east, and the theater was right. That's the church in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the church is.
Oh, okay. So you took her, she was around the house.
She was all the
Mom
time.
was approved, your mom approved of her.
Oh, yeah. Her mother approved me, but I don't think her dad did too well.
All right.
I
Tell
don't
us- tell us your reason.
Well, I don't think I had a too of a reputation. being rowdy.
I like that.
But
So
they,
you went to the skating party.
she had a younger sister, or her younger sister was born, like we started going in September, and her sister was born in the month in September. So every time we went on a date or go any place, we always took her with us. She's always our chaperone, yeah. And people thought she was ours, and I told her when she got married, we always told everybody that actually she was our daughter, but her mother just adopted her and raised her a lot of time. We told her future father-in-law that, and he sort of it was funny.
So you took the baby on a date.
We all, after her mother died, she lived with us for a couple of years until she got married.
When did her mom die?
That's 61.
61, okay, so you guys, when did you get married? Tell me about
51.
that.
51 a year.
What was your wedding day like? What did you do in the morning? Baseball?
No, I think I wore my car.
Wash the car?
I can't remember. I just usually.
You showed up?
Oh, I showed up.
Okay.
We went to
What was your
Gatlinburg
wedding?
on one of my brothers and
You had to pick one.
Clyde, next second the oldest one, and then her best friend was there was only 2 of them. She was her maid of honor,
What was-
51. Oh yeah, 51. Married 50 years last year. And I went service right after. We were married in June, and I went service in February. And then
Is that Korea?
she came down when I was in basic training. She came down and stayed, went down to South Carolina.
What base?
She lived in town, but I don't know. Sometimes you get a weekend, basic training. Sometimes you get a weekend pass, and so we got home in June, and I went to catch a train to California, and I found out she was pregnant then. So the baby was born when I was in Korea. She was 6 months old.
We got
son.
to see her. Oh, what did you do in Korea? You were in the
Infantry, Army.
Army, okay.
I don't know what they call a 75 recoilless rifle, and that was it weighed 115 pounds. You put it on like a machine gun tripod, and it had a backblast to it. When you fired, it was recoilless, and the shell went out the one end, a big bunch of junk coming out the back end. And and you had to fire it. You had to be on the top of the hill, and that's where your gun placement was. And they had what's called bunkers, and you had a roof on top of it, and a slot in the front. And when you fired the thing, you'd have somebody on either side of it to stop people from coming come through there because of the backblast.
Who's a comrade?
Yes, you would.
Oh, okay.
You didn't stick your hand out behind the beach. You'd use a hand, too. It was pretty noisy.
Now, how much training did you have? You were basic training
16 weeks.
16 weeks, and then
And
they
then-
chose with the gun.
And then I came on in February, and I was home in June, and left in July. And I think I got in Korea the 5th of August.
Did you take, must have been, a boat ship?
A ship
kind
over,
of ship
yeah,
over
ship.
there?
Took, I think, 17 or 18 days. We took to Japan first.
How old were you, maybe
20. I was still my 21st birthday on the board ship going from Japan to Korea. I was 21. I was married at 19, had a baby at 21, or went in the Army at 20, had a baby at 21.
Glad you came back. that.
Oh, that's another thing too.
How about that?
The time I got over in Korea was like 52, and was winding down. But it was on the front lines for, you get 4 points for being on the front lines, and you rotated home by points. You had to have 36 points. You got 4 points for being on the line, and 3 points for being in another area, and 2 points for just being in Korea. So I was fortunate that I had 4 points every month that I was over there. I was only over there for 9 months. Because we went up in January. You usually up on the front line for 2 weeks, and you come back down back off for a week or so. And you didn't do any advancing or you didn't do it fine. All you got was like 8 by